Hey there, I'm Brianna Bowling. I am the founder of Retreat and Learn. If you are liking all these interviews I'm doing, I need you to help me spread the word. You need to hit subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, and even more important, I need you to share it with your friends. If this is the very first time you've joined us on one of the interviews, I do want to let you know how to ask a question. We love questions. And it's super easy to ask one. All you have to do is post it in the comments and it will pop on up and we will address it while we are live. So I like to talk, which is partially why I do these interviews. And I've always been a proponent that you build business by telling folks what you do and what you want to do. But that's very different from public speaking. I recently met Leisa Reid, and she helps people get speaking gigs and teaches them how to use those gigs to not only make money by speaking, but also to grow their business outside of those speaking gigs. Leisa is a professional speaker. She's also the founder of the OC Speakers Network, and she's the author of a wonderful book called Get Speaking Gigs Now. So let's get right to it. I'm going to bring Leisa right on in here. Welcome, Leisa.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to get right into the questions because I know people really hate all these little intros. They want to get right to the meat of things. So I have to ask you, I understand how you can get public speaking gigs, what that means, but your whole book is really about how to get those speaking gigs and then have it help build other businesses. What does that even mean? And how does that happen?
Right. So the lane that I'm in is really for business professionals, for entrepreneurs, for people who have a desire to teach, a desire to educate. Maybe you're sitting on a bunch of knowledge that's really going to be helpful for somebody, and you find that fun, or you find that compelling, right?
Okay.
And there are a lot of organizations out there who need someone to be that speaker for them. Maybe that's how they have their meetings set up, right? And they would love to have someone who's really good at speaking, provide a lot of value to the audience.
Okay.
But they may not know where to find those people. So when I talk about speaking gigs, that's the kind of speaking gigs I'm talking about. If you are someone who likes to teach and you have a lot of expert to give, and you could attract your clients in that room through providing a lot of value from the front of the room, well, then that would be a really fun way to grow your business, right? We're out there doing social media, we're doing all these tech things, we're doing all this stuff, but there are a lot of us who really love that interaction with people, that educating process. And those are the people I work with.
So I don't be offended if this isn't what it is, but it almost sounds to me like a live infomercial. Is that kind of?
I believe that it cannot be, when you're speaking, I don't think it should be sales pitchy. You know what I mean? I don't think it should be like, and then, wait, there's more, that kind of thing. It should be, I think, provide a lot of value to the audience. Like, we're all sitting on so much knowledge. You get to a point in your life where you're like, oh man, I know a lot about a lot of things, right? And we sometimes think, oh, well, everyone knows that, but everyone doesn't know that. So it's not so much saying, oh, these are my services and this is what I do and this is how amazing I am. It's like, how can you feed someone a little taster of what you know that could really help them in the moment? Maybe they could have some instant action takeaways and it could help them with something.
Okay.
So to me, I don't think of it as an infomercial. Yeah.
No, that's great. And I'm glad I asked it though, because I think there is a big difference between saying, hey, wait, there's more. And let me tell you how you can purchase something, and giving somebody a little tidbit so that they want more.
Yeah.
And that's really the big difference. So the speaking gigs, I always think of speaking gigs as paid things, like we're paid to actually speak. Is that something that you feel that are people paid when they're also trying to build a business? Should they be paid? What's the
jury here? Say on that?
Yeah.
That is one of the most popular questions that I get. And there's a lot, we're in this beautiful time where we're old enough to remember how it used to be. And then there's a new way of doing it. And then there's sometimes people think, oh, it's only one way or it's only another way. And my philosophy is it's a both and, right? Okay. Why not be open to all ways of being paid as a speaker? And I think when we get too far in one camp or the other, then we actually leave money on the table. So yes, people still are getting paid speaking engagements. And typically those are people who've been out there speaking for a bit, right? Maybe they've built up their experience. And so they also may not have, they may not have something, a service to offer. Like if you are a business coach, a life coach, some kind of consultant, you could get paid to speak somewhere, but you also could, hey, I don't know, attract clients in that audience who want your services, right? If you set it up correctly. Now, you also, and this is where I think the money gets left on the table.
Okay.
If you are someone, like, let's say, you know, there's a speaking engagement and they can't pay a speaker fee for whatever reason up front, but you know that your perfect clients could be sitting in that audience. Why would you not want to have an opportunity to just dazzle that crowd, right? And wow them with whatever information you have, because then you are literally setting up this beautiful stage for them to get to know you more. Like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. I didn't know I needed that. Oh, I really like that person's style. I want to talk to them. I want to sign up for whatever it is that they recommended, right? So it's a beautiful way to really attract those ideal people. And then what happens a lot of times is you end up getting paid way more because they become your clients than you would have with the speaker fee. So that's where I think it's like, it's not so much, I don't want people to be so tunnel vision on it's this or it's that. It's like, well, it could be both. It could be multiple things. What does the situation call for? And what really feels good to you too?
So basically, the bottom line is that you don't turn down a speaking engagement just because it's not paid, but you certainly, there's nothing wrong with getting paid for a speaking engagement that you also are trying to build your business.
Exactly. And so that's where I think we get into trouble of a black or white, like, oh, it's got to be this or that. I'm like, well, hold on. I don't know. Let's look at the situation. And if it makes sense for your business, for you to be in front of those people and they're inviting you onto that stage, why, you know, then it's probably going to be a yes. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So like, you know, it's one thing to have a desire to want to have a speaking gig. It's one thing to want to get in front of that audience. How do you do it?
Yes. Well, the first
is a huge question.
I know. The first step. So here's the thing. What they all tell people, Brian, is once you say you're a speaker, like maybe you change your Facebook profile or you know, tell someone, oh, I'm a speaker. The very next question they're going to ask you is, oh, well, what do you speak on? And so if you don't have that answer ready, it's like you've already failed before you got started, right? So I say the first thing you should do is get your talk ready to rock. And I mean, I offer a boot camp on that and things like that, because I don't want anything to get in the way of a person claiming that title. Like, okay, I just want to be like, I am a speaker and I'm going to own it because here's what I speak on. And you got to like have that stake in the ground. So I think that's really a good first step. Now, when you're creating that talk, especially from a business perspective, which is who I work with, right? We want to make sure that there's a thread that goes all the way through. Like, what is the end result you want that audience to do? What makes sense for your business? What action item would make sense for those people to take to bring them into your orbit? Yes. So then it all goes together. So I know it sounds like, oh, just make your talk, get your talk ready to rock. I get it. It's more complicated than that. But that is honestly, I think, a really, really great step to start, first step to take.
So you recommend that you actually write the speech before you ever approach a potential client or potential venue. So that you have that speech ready before you ever talk to them. So you're not developing the speech in response to a gig. The speech comes first.
Absolutely. I say be ready to be ready, right? If somebody said, oh, I would love to speak for your group, how would they know that they want you to speak if they don't know what you speak about? And I think one of the, I'll say worst, but because I can't think of a better word, is when you say, oh, I'll speak on anything. I mean, why would you say that, right?
Specialize.
Yeah, you need to, you can't speak on anything. Nobody can speak on anything. Why would we do that? It needs to make sense. And so I think sometimes people are scared to put their stake in the ground. Like, well, if I decide this, then what if they don't like it? And well, what if I isolate and then they want something different? I'm like, well, then you're going to be wasting a lot of your time because you're going to constantly be writing talks over and over and over again. And that is not what I recommend. I recommend.
So let me clarify something though. So are you writing the synopsis of the speech? Like, hey, this is what I'm going to talk about? Or are you actually writing the whole speech before you approach somebody?
That's such a great, I love how you're breaking things down like so simple. Because to me, yeah, I'm like, it's so obvious, but I get it. I get it. Let's break it down even more. So there are 3 main components that I teach in the boot camp. One is your title. Okay. You have to have an attractive title. It's got to make sense, right? So then they go, oh yeah, we'd love to have you speak on that. 2 is your short description. We're talking 2-3 sentences. It's like, I like the title. Let me read a little bit more. You know, like when you're watching Netflix and you're like, ooh, that looks good. But then you want to read a little more to make sure that it's the show that you really want to watch. And then the third piece is your learning points. What will the audience get? And you'll see that now, like now that I've made it more clear, people say like, oh, you will learn : 1, 2, 3, right? These 3 things. So when I say get your talk ready, rock, that's what I mean. You need to have those pieces in place. And I teach a really easy way to do that. It's something you could use forever. And if you don't know what result the audience is going to get, then they don't know.
Right. Like, yeah. What's the benefit? What are they walking away with?
You're the tour guide. I always think of it as like, you know, you sign up for a tour to go see like a volcano. You really want the tour guide to know where they're taking you. Like, yeah, like we're going to see the volcano, right? Like that's the result I'm going to get from this tour. Yes. So it's the same thing as a speaker.
Okay.
And then you fill it in. So that's what the public sees. The public sees that title, description, learning point, right? The booker needs to see that so they can say, oh, yes, no, we want you. That doesn't fit for us, whatever. As the speaker, then you've got your behind the scenes notes. I don't recommend writing the whole thing out. You can have it in bullets or like chunks. I don't recommend memorizing for this type of talk. There are times like a TED talk, or there's things where you have to have it super duper tight and really tight. That's not what I'm talking about here. But your learning points for that audience, you know that stuff. You're talking about stuff that you already know. So you need to isolate what story am I going to share, or what strategy I'm going to share. What's the lesson here, the exercise I'm going to have people go through.
Okay. So now you have the synopsis. You have this, this thing that says, hey, what are my learning points? What is my title? Okay, great. Now you want to go get the business. You want to be able to go get the speaking gig.
Yeah.
Whose door do you knock on? How do you knock on it? And what shouldn't you do when you go knock on those doors?
Oh my gosh, that's so many great questions all in one.
I know. I'm sorry. So,
yeah.
I really want to know this stuff though.
These virtual doors, right, that we're going to knock on. So one thing I think that a mistake people make is they start to Google things. And Google, I love Google. I mean, I use it all the time. But when you start Googling for speaking gigs, it's like a trillion options. And then all of a sudden you're going to get overwhelmed and it's going to be too much and it's never ending, right? You're just going to have so many things. You just could do that for the rest of your life and admin work, blah, right? So now's where you want to start getting really strategic. Where do I think my people would be? Like I have a client who just started my academy and she focuses on teachers and moms. So, and she focuses on Christian moms. So, okay, those are 3 big categories, even though it seems like, oh, we've niched it down. We've got feasibly Christian women's groups. We've got moms and parenting groups, and we've got teachers groups, like 3 huge categories. So she was starting to already feel overwhelmed, even though she had niched it down. I said, okay, just find 3 moms groups, 3 teaching groups, and then come back to me, when you found 3, right? And so otherwise, and she can start in her local area. That's always a good place to start. I always say, find treasure in your own backyard. It's right there. It's right there waiting for you. But again, I love that you're asking these questions. I'm going to talk about this forever, but we're not going to
have 30 minutes.
So that's a good place to start, is isolate the area and narrow it down for yourself. Like, who do you think, who are your best clients? Who are your favorite people? You're like, women, men, both, doesn't matter. Business owners, entrepreneurs. Is there, there's tons of service groups out there that invite speakers to come in. That's a good place to start. If you've never done any speaking, it's an easier yes.
All right. So now you've isolated. Now I want to know, what do I do? Do I just dial them up and say, hey, I want to speak for you? What is the actual action that you're taking when you go to knock on their door? How do you do this?
Okay. So there's the cold call way, which is, I think, less fun and a little bit harder work. Okay. I've done it. I don't do it anymore. I like something that I call the speaker soulmate system, where you actually find other speakers who are looking for the same kind of thing as you, and you introduce each other to different people so that you can get an easier yes. Yeah, it's called the roll out the red carpet technique, right? Why not get an introduction from someone else? You're more likely to get that door open, and it's usually more of a match. So that's one way. Another way is to use what I call your social currency. Who do you already know? Do they know that you are a speaker? Do they know what you speak about? Probably not. You probably haven't told them, or you think like, oh, well, of course they know, but did you really tell them? Have you been hiding? Right. Okay. So there's some ways in which you can make it easier for yourself than having to do those cold calls or cold knocking on the doors or cold emails. I definitely don't recommend, hey, I want to speak for your group. Can I speak for your group? That's not a script I would ever recommend anyone say.
Right. Okay.
If anything, it's like, oh, I was noticing your organization. I don't know if you're looking for speakers right now, but if you are, let's have a conversation and see if I'm a fit. I always go about it in a collaborative approach. Like, we're on the same side of the table and we're developing a relationship. My goal isn't, when I'm having those conversations, it's not like a hunt and kill type of a goal, right? It's a, hey, let's see if I can provide a need that you have. Like, you have an organization that books speakers or that needs speakers. I am a speaker. Let's see if we're peanut butter and jelly together. Like, is this gonna be helpful?
Right. And not everything is a good fit, I'm sure.
No.
I'm going to take a little break right here just to make sure that people who are watching right now, I said at the beginning, but you may have missed it. If you have a question for Leisa, while we have her here, this is a wonderful resource. You can ask her questions. I'm asking her a million questions, but maybe you have a question on your mind that you really want to know. Just post it in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. If you put it in the comments, it will show up. I can ask Leisa the question and she will answer it while we are live. It's much better to get her now while we're here live. All right, so you have the content, we've written things. I'm curious to know, how can you reuse content for different groups? And I assume you can, right? Absolutely. But how do you reuse content? Is it wrong to take the same speech and take it from one situation to another?
No, I can see where we get taught in school, like, you can't write one paper for a class and then reuse it for another class, or, plagiarism, but it's yourself. You've written your own content, so you're not stealing from anybody here. It's yourself. Okay. You already own it, so you could do whatever you want with it. 1,000,000%, I say repurpose everything. Okay. Right?
Perfect.
And, like, for example, like, my book is based on the tenets that I teach in my Speakers Academy. And in my Speakers Academy, I have a module for every single chapter that's in the book, right? A training video, there's handouts, there's things like that. And, like, the Get Your Talk Ready to Rock actually started as a presentation I called Get Your Presentation Ready. But I was like, that didn't quite have the ring to it that Get Your Talk Ready to Rock did. And now I offer it as a one-on-one session for people. I also offer it as a boot camp. And I've written articles about it, and I've given a talk about it, right? It's the same content, but training is a leaky bucket. You pour water into the bucket, and you're a trainer, you know this, right? Mm-hmm. You pour water in it and it leaks right back out. You got to pour more water in it.
Yep. Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
True. All right. There's a couple of things that you mentioned on your website and some of the other materials that I've read. One of them is something called, and I'm going to make sure I say it correctly. It was a speaker sheet, I think. Is that the name of it? Speaker sheet.
Yes.
So what is that?
A speaker sheet, otherwise known as a one sheet, a speaker one page, a speaker page, all is the same thing. And sometimes it's one page and sometimes it's two. It is a designed sales page for you, highlighting you as a speaker. So it is something that has a bunch of things on it, and I'll go through that in a minute. It's not about all your services or your products, right? It's about you as a speaker. So imagine you've got a headshot. It's probably of you speaking, or there's some testimonials about what a great speaker you are. You've got your bio information. You've got, hey, how do I book this speaker? Contact this speaker here. And you also have, there's a couple other things. You'll have your logo, your branding colors, all that, and you'll have your talks. So if you have one talk design, like I mentioned, where you have the title, the description, learning points, you could put that on there. If you have several talks, you might not include all that information. You might just put the titles. You could have who your ideal audience is. You could have media logos, like if you were on CBS or whatever, you'd put that in there, or maybe logos of clients that you've spoken to before. So this is where it gets customized, because it's going to depend on what you're bringing to the table. A lot of times a newer speaker gets really nervous about putting a speaker sheet together because they're like, but I haven't done that, but I haven't done this, but I don't have. That's okay. You put what you have. We accentuate the positive, right? You got to put what you have, and you could change it later. It's fine.
Right. And say who you want to be.
Yeah.
There, even if it's not even completely there. It's true. So once you have that speaker sheet, is that something you just print out and hand to people? Is it something you put on your website? What do you do with that?
Yes. And back in the day, of course, there was a lot more printing and handing out going on. Not so much anymore. It's a very digital age. So it's something you could put on your website. You could put it in a link on your signature. You could, again, this is where we talk about repurposing. I mean, you could do a lot of different things with it, but it's something that, it's funny. I don't use mine that much anymore, and I have so many opinions about speaker sheets, because I booked my first 100 talks when I didn't even know what a speaker sheet was. Okay.
Right.
Again, ignorance on fire is better than perfection on ice. Okay. So I didn't know what it was, and I just went out and spoke. So you don't need one, but it's good to have one, and it helps your credibility. And when you put all those things together, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, now I got to go get testimonies. Oh, I got to write a bio. Yeah, you should have that stuff anyway.
Right. So yes.
It kind of forces you to get your ducks in a row.
Yeah, that is very true. Okay. So the speaker sheet, the other thing I want to ask you, and there's two more things I really want to make sure I do not forget to ask you. And I know we have so little time left. It's amazing how quick these go. One of them is that, let's say you finish your speech. It went great. Everybody's cheering. Yes. How do you get rebooked?
Oh, great question. Okay. So there's a couple ways that you could do this. You could actually contact the booker a few days later, or a week later, or whatever, and say, hey, I'm filling up my calendar for the following year. If you want, we can go ahead and put me down for, that same month in the next year. Okay. That's one way. The other, and I have a whole thing on how do you get asked back again and again? That's a very direct way. That's you really want to make sure you get the booking. But other ways is that you're basically building your Rolodex, if you will, your digital Rolodex from these people. So you can always, if you're looking for more bookings, the first place I would look is go call the people that you already spoken for, right? Right. But if we even back it out further, there's something that sometimes people don't remember, or they maybe think they're doing it, but this isn't intentional. I say be intentional about this. You give them what they asked for when they asked for it. Don't make them chase you, or wonder if you're showing up, or wonder where your stuff is as a speaker. And you show up early, you stay late, you treat everyone with kindness and respect. Don't act like a diva.
Yes.
Or because word gets around. So one of the best ways to get asked back again is be courteous, be on time, be reliable, be respectful, obviously deliver great content. And more than likely, you're going to get asked back.
Right.
And
Make
you're
their
going to
job
be an
easy.
asset. Yeah. You make their job easy. Any stage, I know we were talking earlier about paid or not paid, or whatever. Any stage, this stage today is an honor. Someone is trusting you with their time and their effort to make that stage happen. So
Right.
I never take that for granted.
Okay, so stage. This was not on my list of questions, but I just thought of this when you just said the word stage. The world has changed. I mean, massively changed. And so the word stage means a completely different thing than it did 2 years ago, or however long this whole thing's been going on. And so virtual. Are you also looking for virtual gigs? And is there a difference between trying to get booked for a virtual gig versus a staged gig? Or
yeah,
I'm absolutely
looking for virtual gigs. And in 2020, I mean, I, like a lot of other speakers, was booked. I used to, 99% of my bookings used to be in person. And then when April 2020 hit, it was like, oh, that's not the way it's going to be. So I immediately shifted, and I recommended all my clients shift right away, just get comfortable. I was already coaching on Zoom anyway, so that wasn't an issue. But from April to December 2020, I booked 50 speaking gigs, virtual speaking gigs. Okay. And what I found out is that I actually love it. It's great because I can be anywhere. And all of a sudden, guess what? Your opportunities are even more, we were at quadrillion, now we're at like 4 quadrillion, right? 4 quadrillion opportunities. There's no boundaries. Is it different getting booked from in-person to virtual? Not really, because people are people. So I'll typically have a Zoom call with somebody, like a meet and greet. Like, we're talking, is what I offer a fit for you? Tell me about your group. Are we good? Cool. Let's do it. Or, okay, it's not a fit. Well, it's super nice meeting you.
Right.
That's okay. So yeah.
You never know where that's going to come later. That's always say, the opportunities, never burn a bridge.
Right.
You never know. 3 years later, all of a sudden that person is the perfect fit. You never know.
I just got booked this week from a gal who saw me speak 5 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. Always go back to those same people. All right. So folks that are watching, this is your last chance to ask a question, because I have only one more question for Leisa today. So if you have a question that's burning you in the back of your head, now's the time to ask. And I guarantee you that whatever question you have, someone else has the same one. So don't feel bad about asking that. All right. You have something that you wrote and something that I've read about you, something called a one call close. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds awesome, and I want to know what it is.
Well, I don't know about you, Brianna. I'm a busy person. I love efficiency, right? I love people, but I also love more time with my dog and my family. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, rock concerts, whatever. And so if we can get something accomplished in that time together right away, why not? And so when I write my scripts out, and I don't read from scripts when I'm talking to someone on the phone, but what had happened when I first started booking people and other speakers were saying, how did you do this? So I started paying attention, like, well, what do I actually say? Like, what would a normal conversation be like? And I realized, once I have someone on the phone, usually if it's a fit, we're going to book it right then and there. We're not going to like kick the can down the road. And so that's when I call it the one call close. Like, let's talk. Let's see if we're a fit. I already know the questions I need to ask to make sure it's a fit for me, right? But I also appreciate they have questions for me, possibly. What's it a fit for them? So that's where we have that collaborative conversation, that connection conversation. And then I'll say, once we've decided, like, this is probably a green light, like they're interested, I'm interested, we're all good. Then I would say, okay, so when's the next opening you have for speaking? When do you need somebody? And, whatever month that is. And then they'll tell me what month it is. And I will literally look on my calendar as we're talking. I'll say, oh, let me check my calendar. I'm available or I'm not available or whatever. And we keep going until we find the date that we're available. And sometimes I think, people are nervous about putting that down. And this is really where it comes into the coaching. It's vulnerable being a speaker. It takes a lot of courage. No one can do your push-ups for you. So I always try to say, like, what can we do to lower any of that anxiety so that your confidence is increased, so that you want to have them book you? Because even though we say we want it, if there's any fear of like, oh, what if they don't like it? I don't know. Then you might go, okay, well, I'll call you back later. Bye.
Well, I think it's a perfect example of what one of the things that I always tell people that I'm coaching is that you don't get what you don't ask for.
That's right. You don't ask, you don't get.
You have to ask if you want it. So we are really, honestly, we're a little over time. I mean, like everybody, you're just interesting to talk to. So I can probably talk to you for the next hour, but we probably do need to wrap it up. So is there anything that you want to add? How do people reach you? I'm going to go ahead and put your website up there, but is there other ways that people should reach you? And what else would you like to add that you want people to know?
Sure. Yeah. If you go to Get Speaking Gigs Now, that's gigs with an S, of course, getspeakinggigsnow.com, you can get the 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs. So that'll go right to your inbox. You're welcome to that. If you're listening and you just happen to run across this amazing interview that Brianna put together for us, and you think, oh, that was a sign I need to get started on this, then we can have a direct conversation, and you can go to getspeakinggigsnow.com/chat, and we can have a juicy conversation about what it is that you're trying to do in the world of speaking and what might be holding you back.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Leisa. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today and sharing all of those tidbits. It was great. So thanks so much. And, this will be live soon. I mean, it's already live now, but the replay will be available soon. And thanks a lot, Leisa.
Bye.
Bye.